Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. Now, a brother shot me an email and he asked this question. Shalom, I searched your channel to see if there is content covering celebrating birthdays and where I can find it in the scriptures. Thank you. Shalom to you too, brother. So while I'm editing the next to Revelation 20, Revelation the 20th chapter, lessons, I wanted to go over this really quickly here for the brother. He's asking about celebrating birthdays. Now, when it comes to celebrating birthdays, and he specifically said where to find it in the scriptures, we're going to go into that because it's only a few times that celebrating birthdays is in the scriptures. So I have two ways I want to cover this. All right, first I'll start with this. Ecclesiasticus or Sirach chapter 33 and verse 7. Why doth one day excel another, when as all the light of every day in a year is of the sun? So really, your birthday is just a regular old plain day, man. All right, your birthday is not anything that you individually want to celebrate. And when I say celebrate to the extent of, you want to do what the world does. They have these birthday celebrations. This is my birthday month. They going to a different country, inviting a bunch of friends over and drinking and, having a feast over their birthday and making a big deal out of it. You got a pen, at least here in the South, you get a pen and put money on. You got people clipping money on you and all this nonsense. Well, look, it's not really a big deal. So individually, especially depending on your age, man, if you're a grown man, I don't understand why you celebrate your birthday at all anyways, why anyone would, whether they adhere to the scriptures or not. I never did. Honestly, never did. I never was big into birthdays. I never went anywhere or really cared even before coming into this knowledge. But if you're a brother of the knowledge as you are, brother, you just kind of don't pay your birthday any attention. But let's see what happens in the birthdays in the scriptures. And then I want to talk about when it comes to your family and friends and their birthdays. Because I do believe, even though I'm saying that, we should not be celebrating our birthdays, I do believe that a lot of brothers and sisters, they get a little overrighteous about birthdays when it comes to their family members, friends, so on and so forth. Maybe even your spouse or children that, they're not, they're not a repentant Israelite. They're not in this knowledge or what we call in the truth. And they're not, they want to celebrate their birthdays. What do we do in those cases too? Because I think that's very important. So let's get the couple instances that we have, because you say in the scriptures, let's get a couple instances where you had a birthday celebration. All right, let's get Matthew chapter 14. Verse 1. At this time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Yahushua. Verse 2, and said unto his servants, this is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. So this kind of cuts, if you know what you're looking at, reincarnation. The people believed in resurrection, not reincarnation anyways. Verse 3, for Herod had laid hold on John and bound him and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. Verse 4, for John said unto him, it is not lawful for thee to have her. Verse 5, and when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude, because they counted him as a prophet. He was. Verse 6, but when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Verse 7, so you see that it's Herod's birthday. Let's see what he did for Herod the Edomite, which was king over Judea, excuse me, king over Judea at this time. In verse 7, whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatever she would ask. Verse 8, and she, being before instructed of her mother, said, give me here John Baptist's head in a charger. Verse 9, and the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her. Verse 10, and he sent and beheaded John in the prison. So for quote unquote King Herod's birthday, as you see, Herodias, she requested that John be beheaded, and he was, John the Baptist. So this is one occurrence of a birthday in the scriptures. You see, it wasn't, anything good going on, because we know the other nations, they always got something wicked going on. And that was kind of their custom to have a birthday celebration of such. But it's not recorded anywhere in the scriptures where our people kept, our birthday or had any type of celebrations for it. Matter of fact, you see different themes like this. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, in the day of death than the day of one's birth. Really, this is, to me, spiritual, talking about the righteous is death, and it being counted better because of the resurrection. But either way, the day of death better than the day of one's birth. That's a constant theme you'll see out the scriptures. But again, you will not see anyone, any of the men of the Lord really keeping a birthday or doing anything with it. Let's look at another example. And we're going to get to the main point here, just, going by what you said as far as finding in the scriptures. So let's get that. Let's get Genesis chapter 40 and verse 20. And it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored, verse 21, the chief butler unto his butlership again. And he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. Okay, so verse 22, but he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. So you see, someone else head was lifted up on a king's birthday of the other nations. Now this is Pharaoh's. So as you see, nothing really good going on here when you have a birthday. All right. And then you also have in Job 2 as well. Now, two things that I want to mention here. Number one, if you celebrate your birthday in a fashion where you are exalting yourself just because it's the same day, a year, or whatever many years later that you were born, that can lead to self-idolatry, which is against the primary sin that anyone could commit, which is idolatry. Okay, to have another god before you can turn yourself into a god. Therefore, you are in idolatry. Worshiping anything is idolatry outside of the Most High is idolatry. Okay, which is a major sin. So the idea is to never put yourself in a position where you're worshiping yourself. But that's something that you have to be conscious of, no matter whether it's your birthday or not. All right, that's one thing. But two, when it comes to someone else's birthday. So say you have a spouse, they have a birthday, or you have a child, you got a best friend. They have a birthday dinner. They going out to eat or something like that. And they invite you to go. Depending on the circumstances, in my perspective, do I feel like if you go, you are committing sin? The answer, in my perspective, is no. Why? Because the main sin of celebrating a birthday is idolatry. And yes, it's a custom of the other nations. All right, let's make that clear. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 10 and verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. All right. So we saw what the ways of the heathen were on birthdays. Verse 2. And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen for the heathen are dismayed at them. So when it comes to the ways of the heathen, meaning the customs of the birthday, yes, you are not supposed to keep it. But one thing to separate this is it's not the same as, say, Christmas. No matter what is going on with Christmas, whether somebody's having a Christmas party, Christmas anything, that's something that you want to stay completely away from no matter what. I wouldn't go to a Christmas party with coworkers if you're on the job. If your family having something for Christmas, I would not go to it. And because that's completely different. That is the spirit of a pagan deity. Okay? Because we know that, say, for example, Christmas is the ancient festival, the ancient Roman pagan festival honoring the god Saturn, or the Saturnalia. And just in case if someone doesn't know, that's where you get the number 666 from, is from the quote unquote god Saturn. Okay. So, and that's one of the main gods of this society that's worshipped is Saturn. This society is just Rome back on earth again. Okay. The beast wounds that was healed. All right. So this is just Rome all over again. That's why they have you keep the Saturnalia, aka Christmas. And again, why they worship Saturn. So in this society, they really do. So I would not associate anything to do with Christmas at all, because that is the spirit of idolatry. That's the spirit of a pagan deity. Okay. And another thing brothers bring out a lot is how here in the quote unquote Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, all right, it says here, the highest of all holidays in the Satanic religion is the date of one's own birthday. Okay. So Satanist celebrates his own birthday as the most important holiday of the year. So brothers hear that and say, okay, well, even if it's somebody else celebrating a birthday or something like that, I don't want to have nothing to do with it. It's satanic. And look, I get it. I completely get it. All right, because this is true. The whole point of Satanism is for you to worship yourself so you don't worship the Most High. You see yourself as a god. Okay? It's like Adam and Eve did. They saw themselves as gods. And that's the whole point of Luciferian ideologies, is so that you worship yourself. Essentially, you see yourself as one of the pagan deities. Okay? An amalgamation of a pagan deity. But when it comes to someone else celebrating a birthday or like mentioning or something like that, it's not pagan in itself, because it's not a pagan deity unless they're making themselves a pagan deity. There's no pagan deity mentioned. Like every single day does not have a pagan deity attached to it, every single birthday. Okay, so if you say the words happy birthday, are you in sin? I would say not. I mean, I wouldn't go too far with it. If you bless someone, say, hey, this is a blessing that you made in a new year of life, which is normally what I would say. I do not find that to be in sin. I do not find that to be in error. All right. Because again, it is not a pagan deity attached to an individual's name. Okay. Now, again, a lot of times when it comes to dealing with your family and friends in the world, they're not going to understand that you don't celebrate birthdays. And look, that's completely fine. Again, when it comes to all the other pagan holidays, okay, um, Thanksgiving, Christmas, um, Halloween, Valentine's Day, whatever the case. You should have nothing to do with that. All of those quote unquote holidays I just mentioned, all a part of a pagan deity's worship. Okay. But in the individual's birthday, not quite the same. The way that I look at it too is just like food offered up into idols. So let's go here to 1 Corinthians chapter 8. And again, by no means, I'm not telling brothers to go off. I'm not saying go get a birthday cake with candles, which really has some pagan origins. I'm not saying to do all that. But if it, again, comes to just acknowledging somebody else's birthday, or they have some type of something simple, just, hey, we going out to eat or something like that. It's not that big of a deal. It's just really not. All right, because you're not the one that's going to be in idolatry at that point. All right, let's get 1 Corinthians chapter 8 and verse 1. Now, as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Verse 2, and if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet is he ought to know. So that's the thing. Like, say you already at a restaurant, and then somebody, how quite often, depending on the restaurant that you at, especially like a quote unquote Mexican restaurant or something, they come out and they hollering somebody happy birthday, this or that. You at another restaurant and somebody has a birthday celebration, is at the next table next to you. Now all of a sudden, from hearing the words happy birthday, are you in sin because you're in that same building? Are you in sin because you're in the same building somebody had a birthday? No. You're not in sin just because you're there. All right, and it's the same thing as if it's, again, somebody else's birthday. Just don't get carried away, at least in my perspective. That's what I would say. Verse 3, but if any man love the Most High, the same is known of him. Verse 4, as concerning, therefore, the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other but the Most High, but one. Verse 5, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many. Yes. Verse 6, but to us there is but one God, one power. All right, the Most High, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord, Yahushua HaMashiach, by whom are all things, and we by him. Verse 7, howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge, for some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Verse 8, but meat commended us not to the Most High, for neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat not, we are the worse. So Paul is basically breaking down how, food offered unto idols is nothing, because we don't acknowledge these so-called gods anyways, and they're nothing. They've never taken they never taken breath before. All right, they're nothing to those of us that, believe in the Most High and subscribe to his ways. And, we subscribe to the statute, laws, and commandments of the scriptures. It's nothing to us. And food could be sacrificed to idols anywhere that you go. When you go to the grocery store, you buy anything there, how you don't know Publix, secretly sworn that meat into Saturn or the Bacchus or Dionysus or Nimrod, Osiris, all right, Pan, all these different deities that it could be. I could keep going. You don't really know that. So that's why you can't really get too caught up in these things. And another thing I kind of look at it like a wedding. Okay, so when you have a wedding, if someone is quote unquote getting married, all right, or they're having a wedding, kind of like, the in a traditional American sense where the man got down on one knee to his woman and put a ring on her ring finger. None of these things are in the scriptures. That is a pagan ritual. When a man gets on one knee, he's saying that woman is a goddess. Okay, you are literally bowing to a woman as a goddess because you only bow to a god. Okay, so you're making her a goddess at that point. That ring, that's nowhere in the scriptures because I believe that's called the ring of Venus. All right, and if you go to a wedding, you are then going to a pagan ritual. But would I say not to go to a wedding? No, absolutely not. I'm going to, 2 or 3 weddings since being in this knowledge. Why? Because it's not me that would be in error. I'm just on the outside. And that person, there's a very thin line between, making sure that you do not go off, you keeping the word, you keeping the statute, laws, and commandments to the best of your abilities, and you ain't going off, regardless of what the world thinks. And there's also, on the other end, there is that thin line between still making sure that within your family and friends that is not in this truth or not in this walk, that, you're still able to maintain a relationship with them. And again, I'm not saying that you go off just to establish and maintain a relationship with whoever it is, your mama, your dad, your children, spouse, co-workers, your best friend that you've been knowing ever since preschool. It don't really matter. So if it comes to breaking the law, you do not do it no matter what the case is. But in cases like this, you have to understand that we are in Babylon. Everything around us is satanic. Okay, everything is. It's all pagan. It's all pagan. You can't escape that. So, not acknowledging someone's birthday is that sin is it's not on you, or whether you say something about it. Blessings to you, brother, for making another year. Boom, there you go. You done. If you don't want to say the words happy birthday, which I don't believe would be in sin, it's not really any different. But if you want to just say it like that, that's what I do. Boom, there you go. When it comes to your own birthday, I wouldn't pay it that much attention at all. I definitely don't. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I literally, when I first got in this thing, I'm not going to lie. I'm just, let's just be real here. When I first got in this walk, like the first 2 years, I would still have a certain type of energy that would come over me on my birthday because, you're so used to, if you got a Facebook account, you're so used to all these people writing on your wall and people waiting to 12 o'clock on the dot to call your phone, tell you happy birthday, and everybody kind of saying it, getting all these text messages and calls and, folks on social media trying to strike up an old flame. She hitting you up. Right. But I was like that like the first 2 years. But then really at this point, like I promise, like it's literally the exact same. I feel absolutely no different on my so-called birthday. All right. I do nothing different at all. I don't make any type of announcements on any social media. I just don't pay any attention. And even when I do recognize my family's birthday, I don't wait to 12 o'clock and all that. I get to it whenever I get to it if I acknowledge it. I don't even care if it's my mom and them. I really don't care, because it is what it is. But again, you're not the one in sin because you're not the one making them an idol. Now, keep in mind, too, our people we kept up with how old that we were. It's all over the scriptures. I mean, I could go to it, but obviously, we were aware of how old that we were. Okay. Like anytime you have a great man of the Lord die, you would see, like in the book of Job. Job is how many chapters? Job is or 40, 44, no, 42. Yeah. So like when Job passed, what did it say? Job chapter 42 and verse 16. After this lived Job 140 years and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So if we didn't acknowledge birthdays to the point where we didn't even count it, then we wouldn't know how old anyone was at all. It wouldn't even say here Job was 140 years because we wouldn't even know. So obviously, our forefathers kept up with how old we were. So to me, I wouldn't get too over righteous on it. Again, to me, it's kind of akin to a wedding, going to a wedding, things like that. When it comes to somebody else's birthday, I just wouldn't get carried away with it. When it came to my own birthday, I wouldn't do anything at all. I would treat it as a normal day because to me, it is a normal day. But it is a blessing from the Most High every single day to be on the land of the living. It's a blessing every single day. And to make another year, which we kept years, that's also not something, is pagan per se in itself because we kept up with years. Obviously, we've always had an annual calendar when it came to feast days, so on and so forth. We've kept time, we kept days, months, and years. So making another year, if you're just saying that as, an accomplishment in itself, because that's an increment of time, a year, then that's a blessing too. So, it's all really one and the same. I wouldn't get over righteous on it. Don't be like one of these brothers, just act like, you say the word birthday, I'm sinning by saying birthday, or, on your birthday, or somebody else's birthday, something like this come up and you just act like, if brothers and sisters don't talk about how some brothers act about it, you'll know what I'm saying. But I think they're being over righteous. So brothers act like that in my own personal perspective. That's just me though. I think it's like food offered up into idols. Okay. We are in captivity. Just keep that in mind. We are in captivity. Okay. So, you don't want to damage all of the relationships if you are able to keep any in this world with the people that you have in your life, if you're able to. Okay. So I wouldn't really let a birthday or anything like that get in the way. Especially if you ain't said nothing to somebody in a few years and they wondering why, and you couldn't explain it to them, but whatever the case. An individual's birthday, it can be idolatry, celebrating somebody else, quote unquote celebrating. I wouldn't go too far. If they have like a birthday dinner or something like that, why not follow through? It's not really that big of a deal. Okay. But that's pretty much it on it. We went through a few scriptures here, not nothing too heavy because there isn't a lot of it in the scriptures. I'm just trying to keep things in real life because I really think that we have to do a better job of talking about real life, man. Like, let's not act like we don't have a life to live once we're not reading the scriptures and dealing with the day-to-day challenges of, being a brother or sister in this walk. Let's not act like that, all right? I can't stand that for real, to be honest, when brothers act one way on the camera. And then anyways, that's pretty much it. Lord willing, it was edifying. Shout out to you, brother, for asking the questions. And if you got anything else, of course, sending in. And with that, I bid everyone a mighty shalom.